The 1960s was a golden age for the American automotive industry, as muscle cars were growing in popularity like no other. And these models only grew in popularity as more and more people were begging for the biggest, baddest, and most powerful muscle cars around. The general appeal these cars offered was the chance to own a drag racing monster while also keeping costs at bay. And today we've rounded up some of the best 1960s muscle cars that are still considered the bad boys of the road. Starting with the street racing statement by General Motors, the 1964 Pontiac GTO. In many ways, the 1964 Pontiac GTO was regarded as one of the pioneer muscle cars, mainly because of the simple premise behind the car's build. The idea was to find the largest engine and put it on the lightest body that could be found. Incidentally, the Pontiac GTO was the idea of John DeLorean, who took the name from the Ferrari 250 GTO, one of the most iconic race cars in history. Not bad for a car that would race from 0 to 60 in just 5.6 seconds, setting the stage for the powerful machines that followed. It featured a 389 cubic inch V8 engine producing 325 horsepower and 428 pound-feet of torque. However, along with its power, people were crazy for its distinctive design, with a split grille and a hood scoop, plus GTO badges on the front grille and rear deck lid. Pontiac GTO started the hustle for muscle cars, a hustle that went strong for a solid decade. Now meet the 1965 Shelby GT350. The one person who could take a stock production car and turn it into a muscle car built for racing would be the one and only Carroll Shelby. Up until the early 60s, he'd been racing and working on his own version of the Cobra, which has been revived this year. A series of 1965 Mustangs were shipped to the Shelby shop in Los Angeles, where Carroll and his team went to work. They slid a modified 289 under the hood that could kick out up to 329 pound-feet of torque and 306 horsepower. This combination allowed the 1965 Shelby GT350 to accelerate from 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds and run down the quarter-mile track in under 15 seconds. The guy literally designed this muscle car for one task: to destroy the competition on and off the street. It could reach speeds of up to 132 miles per hour and boasted exceptional stopping power thanks to its racing brakes. Then, standing at number 8, unlike any cartoon character, is the 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner Hemi. It may have had a name inspired by the Looney Tunes character, but make no mistake, the Plymouth Roadrunner Hemi was all business all the time. With a standard powertrain featuring a 380 CID 4-barrel V8 engine with 335 horsepower, the Roadrunner Hemi became a popular muscle car in the late 60s. It offered customers a back-to-basics package that underscored everything people wanted in a muscle car without the frills attached. In building the Roadrunner Hemi, Plymouth emphasized the car's performance, leaving all the styling intricacies behind. The car didn't look anything out of the ordinary or particularly amazing, as anything that didn't boost its performance was left out, including the interior, where extras became a foreign concept. And for extreme die-hard muscle car fans, here's a fun fact for you. Plymouth actually paid Warner Brothers $50,000 for the rights to use the name and likeness of the Roadrunner, and another $10,000 to develop the Beep Beep horn. Just goes to show that despite being as simple as can be muscle car, the Plymouth Roadrunner Hemi still offered plenty of character. Now coming to the muscle car that most people dreamt about in the 60s, the 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1. The 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 is one of the fastest and most powerful American muscle cars of its era. It was conceived by drag racer Dick Harrell specifically for drag racing and came with a 427 cubic inch big block V8 engine called the ZL1. This particular powertrain gave the Camaro all the performance output it needed, 500 horsepower worth, to be considered one of the foremost American beasts of its time, capable of hitting 0 to 60 in just 5.3 seconds. Only 69 ZL1 Camaros were ever built, making this model one of the rarest and most influential American muscle cars of the 60s. At number 6, you'll find the power car that restores the reputation of the Ford Mustang, the 1969 Ford Mustang 428 Cobra Jet. Though the Ford Mustang has produced its fair share of doozy pony cars, nothing draws oohs and ahs more than the 1969 Mustang 428 Cobra Jet. Seen as the model that challenged the big block Camaros and Firebirds of its time, the Mustang Cobra Jet was a stronger version of the Mustang, equipped with a powerful engine suitable for its reputation. The Cobra Jet was notable because it ushered in a new wave of interest which had been lagging behind the Chevrolet Camaro, the Pontiac Firebird, and the Plymouth Barracuda. Powering the Mustang Cobra Jet was the 428 CID V8 engine that featured larger valve heads than the standard Mustang, a ram air induction, and a functional hood scoop, while also carrying the same intake manifold as that of its less powerful counterparts. While Ford rated the Mustang Cobra Jet as having only 335 horsepower, the truth was its output hit closer to 410 horsepower. Next in the series of the Cobra, we have the 1967 Shelby Cobra 427 Super Snake, which literally bites in any direction. Despite its streamlined sports car looks, the 1967 Shelby Cobra 427 Super Snake had the pulse of American muscle coursing through its veins. Judging by the limited number of cars built for this particular model, it shouldn't be surprising that the most powerful Shelby to ever be built still carries the title of one of the rarest American muscle cars in history. Carroll Shelby always wanted the fastest and meanest car on the road, and he set about doing it by introducing this big beast, limited to only 2 units. It was essentially a race car modified for use on the street, but still holds acclaim as the most awesome of all the Cobras ever to be built. Not only was it powered by the Cobra's top-of-the-line 427 cubic inch V8 Shelby engine, but to give it some extra juice, Shelby added a pair of Paxton superchargers to the mix, effectively doubling the output of the 427 Cobra to a mind-boggling 800 horsepower. Moving on to our number 4 contender, a mini muscle car with big performance, the 1968 Chevrolet Nova SS. Putting the biggest possible engine in the smallest possible car while keeping it relatively affordable for the masses is the definition of American muscle. In that regard, the third-generation Chevrolet Nova is one of the best examples. The Nova was always positioned beneath the bigger Camaro, but packed some of the V8 engines, chief of which the LT1 350 V8. The two-door Nova SS was built on the four-door sedan Nova's chassis, where the sedan's B-pillar doubled as a built-in roll cage. This, together with a unibody structure, made the Nova more rigid than the Camaro. At the same time, all performance parts available for the Chevy Camaro also worked on the Nova, meaning plenty of owners tweaked these little Chevys into blisteringly fast hot rods. Some dealers, like Yanko Chevrolet, made additional tweaks to the Novas, such as installing heavy-duty suspension, 12-bolt rear ends with 4.10 gears, and other modifications that were readily available. So that was the Chevrolet Nova SS. However, like other American car makers, in the 1960s, Ford followed the philosophy of win on Sunday, sell on Monday. And to feel that nostalgia, meet the 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429. Motorsports were the best way to advertise a performance model, and the 429 cubic inch Ford V8 was specifically made for NASCAR. While the racing version of the engine was put in the Ford Torino Talladega, the 429's most notable use in road application was in the Ford Mustang Boss 429. The engine featured hemispherical heads, earning it the nickname Ford's Hemi. The engine was a tight fit in the smaller Mustang and resulted in a weight distribution of 58.5-41.5. Because of this, the car was difficult to handle, which prompted Ford to work on a mid-engine version called the Boss 429 Lid. Performance gains, however, were too small to make financial sense. Nevertheless, with a quarter-mile time of 13.6 seconds at 106 miles per hour, the Boss 429 was still a quick car. Sitting at number 2, we have the 1968 Dodge Charger RT. It's one of those muscle cars that has definitely withstood the test of time. It's the type of muscle car that imposes an image of fear and star quality wrapped in one awesome package. With an unmistakable design that features the now famous hidden headlight grille, the overall curvy body, the refined tail, and the prevalent use of chrome on the car, the 68 Charger RT was in a class of its own back then. Beyond the impressive aesthetics and timeless design, the Charger RT also boasted a powertrain featuring a 440 cubic inch 4-barrel Magnum V8 engine that produced 375 horsepower with an engine option in the form of the 426 Hemi engine that came with 425 horsepower. While other muscle cars at the time came out with a more dynamic profile or powerful engine, nothing could compete with the Charger RT regarding the whole package. Alright, now falling at number 1 in our list is the 69 Dodge Charger Daytona. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona was a one-year-only option built on the B-body platform solely to dominate NASCAR races. At its core, it was a modified Dodge Charger RT that leveraged aerodynamics and wind tunnels to create a wind-cheating beast. In terms of looks, the public had never seen such a spectacle before. A car with a nose cone shaped in the wind tunnel, with a 23-inch tall stabilizing wing that looked more at home on a supersonic jet fighter than a passenger car. Armed with a 426 Hemi V8, the Winged Warrior set the record for the first car to reach 200 miles per hour in NASCAR history. So that's a wrap for the 1960s. These baddest and most powerful muscle cars were just the tip of the iceberg. We've got a lot more bad boys from the vintage era. For that, subscribe to our channel to stay in the loop. Thanks for watching.